Jenna, thanks. After two separate incidents at Chicopee Comp High School football games earlier this year, including a gun drawn in the stands on Thanksgiving, city leaders are developing a plan to improve safety measures moving forward. Western Mass News reporter Matt Satilli joins us now live with that story. Matt.
Yeah, Chris, I've learned that a meeting was held in Chicopee last week. Today, I spoke with the athletic director in neighboring Springfield, who constantly oversees high-profile football games, about what security measures they have in place.
But it is an urban district, and they face a lot of the same similar challenges that we do in Springfield. So to see the events that happened at the Sword game were pretty disappointing.
A scary scene at the Sword game, the annual Chicopee versus Chicopee Comp High School football game held on Thanksgiving, where two 19-year-olds were arrested after a gun was drawn. That incident coming just weeks after police investigated a fight between a 12-year-old and two 16-year-olds.
We don't allow any bags into our football facility. We make sure everyone's wanted.
Dwayne Early knows a thing or two about security for high-profile sporting events in Western Mass. The Springfield Public Schools athletic director outlined for us the procedures in place at every Springfield Central football and basketball game. Officials in the Chicopee mayor's office confirmed there was a meeting held last Wednesday. In attendance, Mayor John View, the city's police and fire chiefs, the interim superintendent, and other school officials. Springfield AD Early tells Western Mass News in Springfield they constantly evaluate security, especially for high-profile games, similar to the Sword game between the crosstown rivals in Chicopee that led to last week's meeting.
If there's a high-level game, a high-stakes game, a game that we think is a rivalry, we will add layers of security. We also have policies and procedures that are in place and mechanisms that the public don't know about, so that we can just try to stay ahead of everything that could possibly happen.
Now, Chris, just into our newsroom, a statement from Chicopee Mayor John View outlining considerations that came out of last week's meeting. They include mandating IDs at all school functions, the possibility of using metal detectors and/or wands at the event entrances, banning all bags and backpacks, and requiring all middle school and younger students to be accompanied by adults. View also says, effective immediately, they will ensure that all students who are suspended for school aren't allowed at extracurricular and other school sporting events and functions, and that also they will have some considerations that will be underway moving forward. They're going to have some extra staff on hands for those rivalry games and high-profile games, which would include events like the Sword game between Chicopee and Chicopee Comp. We'll keep you updated on those developments, but for now, reporting live for Western Mass News, I'm Matt Satilli.